To U.S. diplomatic efforts overseas, Ukrainian and Russian officials met today for a second day in Geneva. The U.S. brokered these talks. Yesterday, the U.S. and Iranian negotiators held high-stakes, indirect talks in Geneva to discuss Tehran's nuclear program. Speaking to Fox News, Vice President J.D. Vance said the administration is seeking a diplomatic solution, but he warned all options are still on the table.
In some ways it went well. They agreed to meet afterwards. But in other ways, it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. So we're going to keep on working it.
CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio joins us from London to update us on where things stand this morning. Hey there, Ramy. Where did yesterday's talks with Iran go? What was accomplished?
Sure, Errol. Well, first off, we know that there's going to be around 3 of talks between the U.S. and Iran. That's supposed to be within the next 2 weeks, coming from a U.S. official who also said that Iran would come back with what's being described as detailed proposals. Now, those would be to address gaps in their positions. They weren't directly outlined, but chief among them, we know it appears that Tehran intends to keep its civilian nuclear energy program. But a reminder, the U.S. and Israel are skeptical, have been for a long time, that Iran is hoping to develop nuclear weapons still in order to defend itself. And then after talks ended, Iran's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, said that the country is not chasing a bomb and is open to verification of its program to try to assuage some of these fears. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, who was in Geneva, was optimistic, but like we just heard from the vice president, he also implied that options are still on the table. Take a listen.
We are hopeful that negotiation will lead to a sustainable and negotiated solution. At the same time, as demonstrated during the aggression of 13 June 2025, Iran remains fully prepared to defend itself against any threat or act of aggression.
Right. So he talked about the civilian nuclear energy program. He also said that Iran wanted the U.S. to lift sanctions, crippling sanctions that have rippled through its economy, causing the unrest that we saw in December and January. But if Iran was attacked again, he said, like Operation Midnight Hammer last June that he mentioned, consequences, he said, would not be confined within Iran's borders, i.e. the takeaway here that it would retaliate. And remember, there are a few dozen U.S. military sites across the Middle East. Qatar has Al Udeid Air Base, the U.S.'s biggest there. Bahrain, home to the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet. So Iran does have many, many options if it chose to.
And no one wants to see war there. But, Ramy, let's talk about where war has been unfolding for years. In Ukraine, there are those negotiations between Ukraine and Russia. Any sign of a breakthrough on that front?
No, unfortunately, not at all on this front, Errol, because talks yesterday we saw lasted about 6 hours. Talks today lasted only about 2 hours, not leaving a lot of time for more negotiations there. Russia's chief negotiator said that talks were difficult but businesslike. Ukraine's lead negotiator said talks were complex, but that there is progress. But they are looking ahead to potentially next week when they could restart talks again. That would be the 4th round.
All right, Ramy, with all the latest on those 2 major stories. Ramy, thank you.